Hello and welcome to another episode of the Please Bet on Football Games podcast. I am your host, Alex, here with the on-air talent, Joe. Joe, how's it going?
Not that great. I think talent's a little stretch at this point.
It was a bad week.
It was a really bad week. And for the first time this season, I think we actually mostly earned the bad week. It is so 5 weeks in, week one, but we were unlucky not to win more. Week 2, we lost a little bit, but we should have won everything. Week 3, we lost a little bit, but we should have won. Week 4, we should have about broken even or won. And week 5, we deserved to lose, and boy, did we lose.
Yeah, I think that's the worst week we've ever had. We'll get into it shortly, but just to give you the overview, we bet 10.5 units. It was a big week. We talked about we were tilted, but fuck it. Went wrong. We lost 6.7 units.
That was perfect timing on the crescendo.
Yeah, that really worked out. We won 14.3% of our bets. For the year, that takes us to down 11.4 units with a 35.5% win percentage.
Let's start with Todd fucking Bowles, shall we?
Yeah, I think this was the only one that we really have a gripe with. For the review, we had Tampa Bay over Atlanta. Money line, we put 3 units on that bet. They lost in crushing fashion.
Crushing.
I want Todd Bowles fired. How they let him on the plane. Insane.
I would tell him you need to walk. Actually, don't even walk back to Florida. Let all of your earthly possessions be destroyed by the hand of God that is that hurricane. And you just meander on a highway your family doesn't need to see you. 1 minute and 33 seconds left. Up 3. Todd Bowles needed to take 3 knees and kick a field goal to win the game. And so what did he do? Run the ball. Fine. But then there's a penalty, kind of a bullshit hold, and they missed a call on a face mask on the exact same play, which was really obvious. That's pretty bad luck. But hey, there's still like 1 minute and 29 seconds left. It's first down and 20. You're okay. Kneel 2 more times. Kick the field goal. God forbid, run the ball 2 more times and kick a field goal. No. We're going to try some weird toss, lose a few more yards. We're going to try a screen, lose a few more yards. And then we're going to punt. What? And then the piece de resistance. With 2 seconds left, the Falcons throw a slant up the middle. And rather than a well-coached defense holding Drake London up or laying on the ball when he falls down to burn a second or 2, they tackle him immediately and then stand there waiting for the spike and field goal. Nuts! And of course, in overtime, the Buccaneers can't cover or tackle because Todd Bowles is addicted to prevent defense. This is to ignore the squandered interception in the red zone. This is to ignore the fumble by Bucky Irving. This is to ignore the fact that the Buccaneers threw the ball 9 times in the second half, despite the fact that Baker Mayfield had yet another A-plus performance. Fucking putrid. I'm pretty sure that anyone listening to this podcast could have head coached the Buccaneers to a win last Thursday. But alas, we bet on Todd Bowles. And sometimes when you bet on Todd Bowles, he will take a handgun out, place it to your temple, and pull the trigger 7 times to be sure. I don't want to say we deserve this, because if the Buccaneers are ever going to win a game, this was a great bet. They outplayed the Falcons. They outpossessed the Falcons. They won the turnover battle. Fuck, they won the game other than losing the coin toss in overtime and basically handing the Falcons a field goal for funsies at the end to tie. I don't know if you can tell. I'm a little angry about this one. I accidentally made 2 bets on the same game and then went on a fishing trip in Wisconsin where bets are not legal and could not cash out because of it. And I totally should have won that bet, and it really frustrates me, and I don't want to do this podcast this week because of it. But hey, at least we got justice on the other 4 fucking picks.
My take on this one was that it's hard to say we deserve to lose it, but it's also hard to say it's bullshit because we bet on Todd Bowles. And he hasn't really fucked them too much to this point outside of that Denver game, but it's going to happen. So it's a little bit our fault, but a lot of stuff did go wrong for us.
To the extent that it's our fault, we literally are saying this coach is so incredibly inept that we can't bet on the best quarterback in the league with a highly productive offense against a bad offense, even if they're winning by 3 with the ball at the 20-yard line, a minute to go, and possession. Like, there was a 99.9% percent chance we win that game. The only 0.1% chance is that Todd Bowles invents a way to lose. It's absurd. And the most frustrating thing is that 100% whoever won that coin toss was going to win the game because Todd Bowles is one of the worst defensive coordinators in the league, despite also being one of the worst 4th down decision makers, despite also being one of the worst run versus pass decision makers, despite being terrible at clock management. Is there anything he's even remotely competent? Like, this man shouldn't be allowed to sign his own contracts. There's a thing called incapacity.
All right, I'm going to break
Todd
it
Bowles a legal guardian.
I'm going to break this and get you off of it because otherwise it's just going to be 2 hours of you going in circles about Todd Bowles. We agree. He's terrible. We lost this bet.
Fuck Todd Bowles to dust.
And that kicked off our terrible week. Let's talk about our lone win because let's get it out of the way. We had Minnesota over the New York Jets in London. They were -2.5. That was a best bet, so 2 units.
Yay.
That one won.
Aaron Rodgers is terrible. Sam Darnold is a pumpkin, but he's a pumpkin that we've identified as turning into a carriage until midnight, and nobody else knew that it was Cinderella night. I don't think anything else needs to be said about this game. We deserve to go 2-4. Zippity-doo-dah-day.
Yep, good win. Let's talk about all of these losses that we probably deserved pretty much across the board. First up, we had Buffalo over Houston, -1. That was also a best bet. Houston won. This is a close one, at least. I mean, this one was, they set the line well. It's back and forth. Arguably, Buffalo should have won, but
it's one of those things where Buffalo played really poorly. But if I told you that Josh Allen, second best quarterback in the NFL, is going to be, well, actually, he wasn't even on the field for the whole thing. If I told you CJ Stroud was going to have a 3-point lead and fumble inside of his own 15-yard line with 2 minutes left in the game, and the Buffalo Bills get the ball, you would assume, oh, dude, they're totally going to score a touchdown and win this game. But instead, Josh Allen's hurt, misses a play. That goes to hell. And then basically 3 throwaways, effectively, leads to a field goal to tie. Fine. But, like, that's not capitalizing on a ridiculous turnover by CJ Stroud. And then the Bills get the ball back at their own goal line in 3 straight incompletions. Yes, it's unlucky, but we're also lucky we were even in the game. Like, the Bills had turnover luck and couldn't do anything because they're very poorly coached on both sides of the ball, and they don't have a single skill player who I would care to re-sign next year. If the Bills cut every single receiver and tight end on their team, I'd say, yeah, he's easily replaceable, and that includes both of their tight ends.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it, that they're still just kind of the fighting Josh Allens.
They're the fighting Josh Allens, and he's put together 2 sub-amazing games in a row, and would you look at that? They lost. Exactly.
Like, even in that last drive where they started from their, backed up to their goal line, basically, he made some dumb fucking decisions that gave Houston the chance to kick that field goal and just win. So, I don't know. I don't think he played great. And when he doesn't play great, they're going to lose. So I think we deserve that one. It was a close game. I think it could have gone either way, but we deserve to lose it. Next up, we had Cleveland over Washington at +3.5. They got blown out. Deshaun Watson is the worst quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, I think we actually handicapped this game perfectly, other than Deshaun Watson. Let me put it this way. The things he does to the Cleveland Browns on the football field are the second worst thing he's ever done besides the 26 things he did. Yeah, like the Commanders could not move the ball whatsoever to start the game. Like, they had the one big busted play to Terry McLaurin, but JOK spied Jayden Daniels. Jayden Daniels did nothing as a runner. JOK picked Jayden Daniels off on the goal line because Jayden Daniels can't process or do really anything but throw screens in deep. which is plenty, but still. Myles Garrett was pretty banged up, but the Browns' defensive line still controlled Jayden Daniels. The problem is Deshaun Watson almost literally couldn't complete a pass. And the Browns went 3 and out on every single drive in the first half, except for one, which lasted 5 plays. So by the end of the first half, the Browns defense was like visibly exhausted. And the Commanders basically realized it and said, "Oh, dude, run streaks because they're too tired to catch you." And so they did. And yeah, Martin Emerson was way too tired to catch. I believe it was De'Ami Brown. Doesn't matter who it was. It was wide open. And the game kind of broke open from there. Jayden Daniels Terry McLaurin fumbled to start the second half. And it looked like the Browns were going to get an easy touchdown and be right back in this thing. And then Deshaun Watson literally couldn't even call plays because he's so inept.
On that fourth down, they did have 12 guys on the field.
Yeah.
That was why that stopped. But yeah, no, I mean, he was terrible. We made the mistake of thinking that he had one good game relative to what he's become. And we thought, okay, maybe he's figuring out a little bit. And even if he regresses back to kind of what he's been, he still doesn't need to do that much. But he played as bad as I think he's ever played.
I think that's I didn't grade it because I can't watch that level of football, but I'm pretty sure that's the worst game I've ever seen any quarterback play. The ineptitude, it's like we talked about with Desmond Ridder last year. I have a special list called the inept list, which is like, it's not that you're bad. It's that I legitimately don't know what the fuck I can do as your offensive play caller to scheme you anything. Like, say what you will about Jayden Daniels. I bash him a lot because all he can do is throw screens and deep balls, and like anybody can do that. I don't think Deshaun Watson could do that. Like, I don't think Deshaun Watson could run a college offense against college players with the Cleveland Browns right now. I don't think he can do anything. And frankly, like you said, like if Deshaun Watson was the C- to D+ quarterback he's been basically his entire career, but we won't talk about that right now. The Browns absolutely hang in this game. They absolutely have a chance to cover 3.5, maybe even win. Like, it's going to be a tight game at the end of the game. But when he gives you a Z- performance, a backup CFL performance, I don't know how you can bet on the Browns. And frankly, we have some insight to that locker room. We know that some of their defensive players are, shall we say, making business decisions already. Add in the dysfunction of Deshaun Watson. I can't imagine that the Browns try again until Jameis is put in.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dumpster fire there right now. And I think we do have to talk about Jayden Daniels. And maybe you're still a little cool on him relative to what everyone's saying. And I still don't think he's like MVP conversation or the greatest rookie season ever, because we're still watching the games where he is executing. I give him a lot of credit that he is making the read. He's delivering accurate balls and giving guys room to play. And then last week, he wasn't very accurate. I mean, I think he completed like under 60% of his passes, just under, but around there. But he was actually hitting deep balls and throwing some nice, challenging throws.
He did have 2 nice deep balls, which brings his deep ball accuracy percentage up to 30% on the year, which is actually still pretty bad. But I'll bring up the chart for you right here. He did improvise and make plays out of structure, which is something we haven't seen a ton of from him yet. I don't know. Overall, Jayden Daniels has played better than I thought he would. I thought he would be like totally inept. And while he has only been asked to do very easy things and mostly against really bad defenses, he's done them. Like, and this is the opposite of Deshaun Watson, right? I said, I don't think there's any offense Deshaun Watson can operate. Jayden Daniels may be very limited in what he can run, but he's being asked to throw lots of screens. He's hitting them. Hey, a lot of quarterbacks miss screens every once in a while. He's not, right? I watched Daniel Jones miss 3 screens last week. Jayden Daniels didn't. He's being asked to throw it deep occasionally, right? League average right now, I'm charting deep balls this year for the first time. League average is 37% accurate. Jayden Daniels is at 30.8. If you can hit deep balls averagely and hit screens above averagely, and you are at least threatening with your legs, if not very productive with your legs, you're going to present defenses a lot of trouble, at least the first time they see you. Now, better defenses, like the Browns, actually, before they got exhausted and totally discouraged, will be able to handle that better. But whereas I thought Jayden Daniels would be a candidate for the inept list, he's certainly a candidate for the this works list. Kind of like a Jalen Hurts was, or even is. or like a Joe Burrow has been, where it's like, no, he's not the reason they're good. And if you replace him, you're probably going to get all or most of the production back from a decent backup. But what he's currently doing is not hindering the team, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's working. And I think it is throwing defenses off a lot because he is such a threat with his legs. I'm still curious how long that will hold up, just like over the course of the season as those hits mount up, if he's going to run less or if it's not going to be as productive. But right now, it's definitely that threat is there, even if he's not busting off a bunch of insane runs. Granted, he had a pretty good run last week, if I remember right.
He had two.
Yeah. So that does really stretch your defense. And like Lamar, we always talked about him you always had to be ready for him to run, but he wasn't consistent enough as a passer that you could get away with stuff because you didn't have a lot of faith that he was going to hit every throw. Whereas Jayden Daniels, he's not hitting every throw, and there are obviously things that confuse him and he misses on. But he's being pretty consistent at hitting those easy throws that are there because the defense is soft coverage-wise because they're trying to account for him to run.
Yeah. No, and when the run game is working as well as it is, I mean, these guys are averaging 5 yards a carry. Two of their running backs are averaging over 7 yards a carry. They're dangerous.
I wasn't quite as low on him as you were, and I'm definitely still not at the level of he's incredible because he's played 5 games against mostly bad defenses.
I mean, you could argue he's exclusively played bad defenses.
So, and, it's 5 games. Like, there have been guys that have had entire good seasons and then sucked.
It's 5 games, and one of them was fucking terrible, and 2 of them have been okay.
Yeah. So, and I mean, especially with quarterbacks, man, I don't make any decision until they play for like 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. But he is better than I expected, though. Yes, I do think it's inflated by what he's being asked to do and who he's playing. But there's a reason they're 4-1.
Yeah, shit.
Yeah. But I think that's enough about this game. We deserve to lose it. Let's move on. Next up, we had Pittsburgh over Dallas -2.5. Didn't happen.
Yeah, no, this was a fun experience. I don't think I've ever bet on the Mike Tomlin Steelers before. Not the Big Ben Steelers, but the Mike Tomlin Steelers, where they only win due to voodoo and bullshit. I really thought momentarily that we were going to be on the proper side of the Mike Tomlin voodoo. Didn't happen. You can't be upset about it because you can't bet on voodoo, and that's kind of exactly what we did. That 4th down throw was a foot away from we win this bet. The Pittsburgh's offense is limp-dicked. Justin Fields is terrible in every way. He's not even a good runner. Like, he's an amazing athlete, but he's got Trent Richardson vision. Like, a lot of his runs end up being negative. Like, they hurt the team despite the fact that he's athletic. Let me check the chart real quick because I keep track of these kinds of things. Yeah, he had 8 runs and none of them were positive. 7 of them were neutral, which means they're as effective as a check down, and 1 of them was bad. It hurt the team. He also fumbled and threw 2 pickable balls. Guy sucks. We shouldn't be doing that again.
Yeah, I just thought they'd be able to run well enough that it wouldn't matter because Dallas can't stop anyone from running.
Yep.
And I mean, I don't think this was a bad bet.
It wasn't bad, but we did deserve to lose. Like, it came down to the last play, but we were lucky to be in that position to begin with.
Yeah. So I think legitimate loss. And on to Monday night, we had New Orleans over Kansas City at +5.5. We also had a little half unit bet on Moneyline.
Yeah, it doesn't help that Derek Carr got hurt and missed the garbage time backdoor drive that could have saved us. It doesn't help that his valiant 4th down, fuck it, chuck it football bomb went right through the hands of his 3rd-string wide receiver. Doesn't help that Derek Carr started the game with a throwaway interception. We were kind of right in that Patrick Mahomes didn't play well. We were kind of right in that the Saints had their deep ball, but we were also wrong because we forgot that literally every team turns into the Washington Generals when they play against the Chiefs. And then there's just literally nobody covering Travis Kelce, or two guys fall down while trying to cover the corpse of Juju Smith-Schuster. and then they just run for 60 yards, and then there's no stopping them. We could have gotten the back door if the quarterback stayed healthy. We were lucky to get in the back door or have it available to us because of that end zone interception. We took a shot at the Chiefs and we missed. I thought that the Saints were a little bit better coordinated on offense than they were. It ended up being a little bit of a shit show, and it worked out a little bit because of the positive variance of just throwing. I think it was 7 deep balls, but ultimately I think we deserved to lose. I don't think we had a shot in hell at the money line, and I don't even think the +5 was viable.
Yeah, no, I mean, this one never really, as soon as they gave up that touchdown right away, I was like, all right, yeah, this money line bet is gone. Maybe we can get a backdoor. And that was all we were hoping for. Once both teams got the ball and we saw a little bit of okay, this is what this game's going to look like. Yeah. I think it's as good as we took a shot. Didn't work. We deserve to lose. I'm ready to stop talking about last week and completely forget about it.
At least we didn't bet on Carolina.
Yeah, seriously.
Although we did also cut Baltimore. Yes.
Yeah, but I mean, fuck, even that game was an absolute sweat.
Bullshit game all around. True bullshit game. 2 bad quarterbacks producing ridiculous numbers despite constantly trying to turn the ball over. What a dumb game. What a dumb league. Wow. Nothing makes sense this year. You could be right for 99.9% of a game, and then Todd Bowles will give the Falcons a tie for fun. Fuck you, Todd Bowles. Let's talk about week 6, kinda.
Yeah, let's mercifully move on to week 6. On to week 6. On Thursday night, we have the San Francisco 49ers going to play the Seattle Seahawks. The 49ers are -3.5.
I don't like that this has moved to 3.5. It was 2.5 at the beginning of the week, and I'm kind of a bitch and didn't want to look at the numbers because they hurt me to see football because last week went so poorly. I have been a little bit lower on Geno Smith than the consensus lately. People are talking about him as being awesome, and it looks pretty, and his mechanics are nice and tight, which I think people are drawn to. But I think he's really been okay. Solid, but not great. And people are talking about him as top 5, top 10. No. That being said, I'm not super stoked on the 49ers right now either. I think their defensive line kind of sucks. I think that their secondary is mid as fuck and has been for years. And then their offense is like a shell of itself. They don't have their guys. So, oh my God, PFF has Brock Purdy as the second best quarterback. Someone put a fucking shotgun in my throat. The hard way. I don't know. I'm at 3.5. I lean to the Seahawks, but I don't. What are the Seahawks really good at? Throwing deep? Not deep, but to the second level and running the ball. They'll be able to run the ball against the 49ers, but throwing to the second level against Fred Warner is going to be tough, always. Additionally, what do the 49ers do well on offense? Well, right now, it's just kind of run the ball, kind of. And the Seahawks, depending on who they actually have available on their defensive line, that should be their strength, is stopping the run. It might not be this week because they are missing most of their interior defensive line. It's a very chaotic game that I don't really want to bet on.
Yeah, I don't want to bet on this game. I think it's a very actionable line, but I think there's a lot of variance with both these teams. It's a divisional game, so it's always going to be weird. So I think we move on.
Yeah, a Thursday game when both of these teams are coming off of heart-wrenching losses in division. Yeah, next game.
Next up on Sunday morning, again in London, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Chicago Bears playing. The Bears are -2.
This game's pretty fucking gross, huh?
Yes. It's going to be gross there as well. I'm sure it'll rain.
It is Britain. I don't think Europe gets enough credit for just how fucking gross the weather always is. But I think that the Bears are getting a little too much credit for beating up on a banged up Carolina team. And frankly, Bears are really lucky that they got out the way they did. Caleb Williams tried to throw 2 picks in the first half, both of which would have set the Panthers up in field goal range at the worst. And the Panthers just got kind of unlucky on offense. And I think the perception would be very different if the Panthers gave the Bears a close game. On the other hand, the Jaguars did finally win a game because they went off against a bad Colts team. These are 2 shitty plus teams. These are 2 mediocre teams who are below average, but kind of fun. And that happens to be how a lot of the NFL is right now. And there's just no good way to handicap a battle of mediocre at the very best teams who are explosive and high variance.
Yeah, I don't really want to bet on this game either. I think if you made me pick, I'd probably go Jacksonville.
Same.
Purely because they're London vets and the Bears scream divas.
I would do it simply because Caleb Williams is 2 for 17 on deep balls this year, which is insanely bad. The Bears are not particularly well coordinated on offense. They play a simple defense. And God damn it, Trevor Lawrence can't be terrible all the time. He's gotta eventually become decent. Fuck this game. Fuck this league. It's so bad right now. There's just no good football, which makes it really hard to bet on because usually the way that you win, or at least the way that we win, is we find good football teams and we bet on them when they play against mediocre or worse football teams who have the reputation of being good. But when there are no good teams, everything becomes variance and a coin flip. And I think that's why we get so much wacky bullshit at the end of games lately. Like almost every game last week had wacky bullshit at the end of the game. And whether or not the team that deserved to win won, whether or not the team that was losing pulled out a win, like the Seahawks deserved to lose to the Giants by a lot, got super fucking lucky to be in the game and almost pulled out a tie or win at the very end, but for a blocked kick. We already talked about the Falcons. We already talked about the Ravens and Bengals. We already talked about the Bills. Like almost every fucking game came down to wacky bullshit within the last 3 minutes. And I think that's a product of shitty football. So fuck this morning game. We're 2 for 2 on games that I say fuck this game.
And on to the 12 o'clock hour. We have the Washington Commanders going to play the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens are -6.5.
It's a stinky line. This sounds wrong, but I don't know that it is. Like, let's go through it. We know that the Ravens are going to run the ball like fucking crazy on this crappy Commanders defense. And Lamar is going to torture this extremely slow front seven. So I expect the Ravens to score a good amount of points. On the opposite side, Kyle Hamilton is kind of like tailor-made for spying a guy like Jayden Daniels. Like that's exactly what he should always be doing. The Ravens are also going to bring exotic blitz looks that Jayden Daniels probably hasn't seen yet because he's played 5 mostly very soft vanilla defenses. I definitely think that the Ravens will win, but 6.5 is just so much.
Yeah, like I'm same boat. I think the Ravens definitely win this game. At 6.5 is a hard number to take.
Like I have enough emotionally invested in this game because when Jayden Daniels inevitably looks pretty bad, I'm going to be able to say, haha, told you so. But then I'll have to restrain myself because you can't say, haha, told you so after one game when the entire fucking zeitgeist is sucking a guy's cock. So I don't want to pile onto that emotional investment and temperament with a bet. Like I said, if this was -2.5 all day, best bet, but it's not. So I guess
next game.
Yeah.
We have the Arizona Cardinals going to play the Green Bay Packers. The Packers are -5.5.
I think that if Jordan Love got injured within the next 48 hours, I would bet on the Packers. But he's terrible. He's borderline inept. The one thing that Jordan Love does well is find like dramatically busted coverages and hit his favorite receiver, Jalen Reed, on those busted ass coverages. Now, the Cardinals are going to bust some fucking coverages, and the Cardinals are going to let you run all over that ass. So the Packers are actually in a pretty great spot here. I also kind of think that the Packers match up well with the Cardinals on the other side of the ball, not only because the Cardinals are legitimately not a very good team at all. Like take away one game where Kyler Murray just kind of tortured a ridiculously slow Rams defense for a quarter, and the Cardinals offense kind of sucks. That being said, the Packers defense hasn't inspired really anybody this year, and I'm not totally certain how their linebackers will be able to match up with Kyler Murray as far as speed goes, because the Packers like bigger linebackers, right? Like Quay Walker's kind of fast, but his angles suck, so it doesn't even matter. Another one where if it was a tight, actionable line, I really think the Packers win. But as it stands, I don't feel very comfortable laying 5.5 with a terrible quarterback like Jordan Love.
Yeah, same boat. Plus, it's going to be rainy and cold.
Is it going to be raining? It's going to be rainy and cold. Fuck, Green Bay has to go maybe pile.
Yeah,
They're gonna run all over.
maybe pile.
They're gonna run all over them. Kyler is not good in the weather. Kyler will fumble a lot in the dry Arizona dome, much less, out Wisconsin way, where they don't let me cash out of bets, so they cost me lots of money, just like Todd Bowles. So
All
Green Bay minus
maybe
5.5.
pile, and let's move on. Next up, we have the Houston Texans going to play the New England Patriots. The Texans are -7.
Here he comes to save the day. Except not really. We do get Drake May, which is great. It's so fun. But unfortunately, we also get the worst offensive line known to man, the worst receiving core known to man, one of the worst coaching staffs known to man, against a pretty good Houston team. And maybe arguably the best pass rush in football. So that's delightful. The line hasn't moved at all since we learned that Drake May was playing. On one hand, that's wrong. But on the other hand, it's not. So points on a spread mean two things, right? Sometimes we use them as a store of value. So sometimes we say this player is this many points better than that player. So if you swap them, the line should move like this. And that's fine and well and good and has its place. But points are also a real thing that occurs in a game. And 7 points is sticky because games are going to land on 7 pretty often just because it's a touchdown. So while Drake May might be a lot better than Jacoby Brissett, he still has to deal with an offensive line that's probably going to result in him being tackled every single play. He still has to deal with literally, and I mean this literally, the two worst separating wide receivers in history in Jalen Polk and KJ Osborne. And a bad run game with a fumble-prone running back against a good Texans team. I don't see how any quarterback, not even Tom Brady himself, really lifts this Patriots team to be competitive with a Texans team that should score at least 28 on them, especially considering CJ Stroud has certainly sold his soul to the devil to make sure that none of the interceptions he tries to throw ever get caught. So on one hand, the market hasn't reacted the way I think it should. But on the other hand, the market is probably right because I think that this line should have been something more like 11 to begin with. Man. See, this is the problem, is it's almost impossible for Drake May to actually look good in this game due to how fucking inept the Patriots are. I mean, seriously, Oakland Athletics caliber franchise right now in terms of terrible ownership, terrible coaching, terrible evaluating and GMing, invested a ton in wide receiver in the offseason and literally don't have an NFL starter to show for it. How do you not have a single fucking starting wide receiver on your roster? How do you not have a single fucking starting offensive lineman on your roster? Assuming Michael Onwenu is no longer allowed to play guard because they don't have any tackles. It's bad. And if I say that, Jayden Daniels stands are going to attack me and say, you're making excuses. And it's well, no, the worst team I've ever seen isn't an excuse. It's a crowbar to the kneecap. So, fuck it. I might just not be on Twitter very much next week.
Probably good for you overall.
I'm fine with that. I don't need to be arguing with people that are cognitively deficient and hate me. Fuck it, dude. Next game.
Yeah, next game. If I had to pick, I'd probably go Houston -7 just because the Patriots are that bad.
So bad.
But I don't want to pick on that game. So we'll move on. Next up, we have Tampa Bay going to play the New Orleans Saints. Tampa is -3.5.
Yeah, so it really sucks that we didn't record this 2 days ago before we got the Derek Carr news because we would have made a lot more money. Originally, this line was supposed to be Saints -2.5. Then they lost and it went to -2. Then Derek Carr was ruled out and it went to Buccaneers -2. Then Jake Haener was ruled the backup and Spencer Rattler, the rookie, is going to be starting instead. And the line continued to move to -3 and apparently it's moved down to -3.5. But if there is ever a time to bet on, here's the thing, and I know what just happened, but if you can ever justify betting on the Buccaneers, you need to justify it in this game because the Saints are going to run the ball a ton and the Buccaneers will stop the run. Why? Because Todd Bowles playing 15-yard off prevent coverages doesn't really affect their ability to stop the run. And the Saints spam the run with their starting quarterback, much less their third-string rookie in his first ever game.
Well, apparently second string.
Well, apparently second string, but third string as of 48 hours ago. Additionally, when the Saints aren't running the ball, they're throwing super duper deep. Well, when you play prevent coverages, theoretically, you should be pretty good at stopping the deep ball. And the Bucs actually are. Like, it's tough to throw deep on them. The problem is you can slit them up with high volume, short West Coast offense bullshit, but the Saints don't do that. And the Saints also don't really have an intermediate passing game, which is how the Falcons diced them up last week. The Bucs, that is. So I like the schematic matchup. Additionally, the Buccaneers have been hanging out together in New Orleans all week because they feared a hurricane was going to destroy their lives, and it turns out it's actually going to miss Tampa, so they'll be okay. I was just talking with a colleague from work who lives in Florida, and she was explaining to me the path of the hurricane. She's like, oh, Tampa will be fine. And I was like, oh, good. I care about my family who lives in Tampa, and certainly not the football game. So I don't think that the Bucs will be like distracted and worried about whether or not everything is gone. I also think they're rich enough that they don't really have to worry. They have insurance for these things. They've been hanging out, focusing up. They'll be okay. They just came off a heartbreaking loss. They're going to be refocused. Rookie quarterback. Say what you will about Todd Bowles. I probably have. His defenses are at least confusing, sometimes in the fact that they make no fucking sense whatsoever, but rookies do struggle with handling the complexity and strangeness that is his defense. And then the Buccaneers do have the best quarterback in the NFL, and people are still struggling to consider him top 10. Like that is such a huge advantage on every spread. It's hard not to bet the Bucs blindly every single game because they have the best quarterback, and he's priced like the 10th to 15th best quarterback. Although I will say, this is breaking news. CBS Sports just released their top 10 MVP candidates. And while number 2 was Joe Burrow for some unfathomable, ridiculous reason, and I almost said something worse there, Baker Mayfield was number 5. And people in the comments were saying he should probably be higher.
Yeah.
I think their rankings go Lamar, Burrow, CJ Stroud. Because all that matters is that you have some cool quotes after the game and went to a large college. Not even. Lamar went to fucking Louisville. He's just important, you know.
My worry about this game is that because they're starting Rattler, they're not going to throw deep. They're just going to do like a very simple one-read offense type deal. And then you get into Todd Bowles playing 12 yards off the line, and I get worried.
See, the other thing is, and I noticed this against Washington, Todd Bowles plays much more aggressively when he doesn't respect a quarterback, which is super fucking backwards and dumb. But like when he didn't believe Jayden Daniels could hurt him with his arm, so he pressed his receivers up, or his cornerbacks up on the receivers more. And it's like, yes, do this all the time. Or like against the Eagles, part of the reason that the Bucs were so successful against the Eagles, sorry, Birdwatcher, is that he didn't respect the wide receivers, so he just pressed them real fucking hard and said, I dare you. And when Todd Bowles presses his corners, the Bucs defense is amazing. But the problem is Todd Bowles has a cavern between his legs where something else should be. And because of that, he's never brave enough to actually play real defense. Against a third-string rookie quarterback who's a 5th-round pick, I think he'll be brave, just like he was against Jayden Daniels. And when he's brave, he's unstoppable. So I think that the Bucs can run away with this one. And Spencer Rattler is actually pretty bad at the deep ball. It's like the biggest weakness in his game is he just can't throw deep very well. I think there's a very good chance that this game gets out of hand early. And while I'm very glad that I have Bucs -1.5, and it's my only actual bet this week, and if it loses, I might actually not be found because I'll tear all my hair out. It would be the most frustrating thing that I let Todd Bowles kill me. Not actually, literally. Don't worry about me, guys. But like I would stop betting for a while. I don't love 3.5. I'm glad I have a much better number, but fuck it, we got to make 5 picks for the contest, and this is up.
I was about to say, at a certain point, we got to start making bets. Yeah, I'm fine with it. 3.5. I'm scared by it just because it's Todd Bowles, and now that field goal could fuck us. But we got to make some bets. So Bucs -3.5. Cha-ching.
Cha-ching. I don't
Next
really
up,
have to cha-ching right now.
We have the Cleveland Browns going to play the Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles are -9.5.
I hate this league. None of these games are interesting. I should be so excited to see the corpse of Deshaun Watson and the shitty Browns play against the Birdwatchers Eagles and watch Jalen Hurts and Deshaun Watson duke it out to see which one can make dumber decisions and be more inept. But the football's so bad that I can't care. Like you gotta lean to the Browns because the Eagles are being dramatically overrated here, but I also can't imagine that anybody in Cleveland will care about this game, and therefore, and players included that is, and therefore I can't imagine that the Browns hang in. I think that this is going to be a ridiculous blowout. The only reason I have any thought of betting on the Browns is because it could get so ugly so quickly that Jameis has to play. And if Jameis plays even half the game, I think the Browns cover.
Yeah, I think it's impossible to bet on the Browns right now.
Yeah.
Because I think Deshaun could get pulled or just quit at any point.
Well, and I think that the entirety of the defense already has quit. And the only hope that the defense can unquit is Deshaun comes out. But then you also run the risk of, like, what if Jameis is fucking weird and they don't love him? Because he seems pretty fucking weird, and I could see them not loving him.
Everybody loves Jameis. Yeah, I think, and the concern I have is even at 9.5, like, the Browns still have a somewhat talented roster. Yeah, they're a complete dumpster fire right now, but 9.5 is a crazy number for a team that has a bad quarterback and has also looked pretty shitty this year. So yep. I don't want to touch it. Let's move on. Thank God. Moving on, we have the Indianapolis Colts going to play the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are minus 2.5.
It's very scary, and I don't like it. Look, before the season, I would have bet everything on the fucking Titans here because the Colts can't rush the passer. The Colts can't cover. So the Titans offense should eat them alive. Problem, it's not okay. The Patriots are the worst offensive line I've ever seen, right? But the Titans are a unique offensive line in that they have the worst, like, the bad part is grouped together. So the left side of Latham and Skoronski is passable. It's not good, but it's a C+ side, right? And it's improving every week. The problem is that Radens and Petit Frere are so incredibly useless. And I don't say useless like, oh, they stink. I mean, like, there's no possible way to make them bad. They're only not there. Like, they barely exist. And so it's not that the whole offensive line is bad. 3/5 of it is fine. But that 2/5 is so bad that it cripples. You can't do anything. You can't do anything. And we'll see what the Titans have learned over the bye week. Maybe Bill Callahan like broke out his magic bottle of this is how you play offensive line potion. If he did, I don't know why he didn't use it over the summer. He had a lot more time back then. But on the other hand, I don't see, this is the problem. I don't know how to bet on this game because I don't know which quarterback is playing for either team. If it's Levis versus Richardson, you have to bet the Titans because I think the Colts score like 7 points. If it's Levis versus Flacco, tight game. If it's Rudolph versus Flacco, I lean Colts. And if it's Rudolph versus Richardson, I don't want to touch it.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I forgot Will Levis was hurt.
Well, apparently he practiced today, and they said he should be fine. It's just an AC joint sprain, but, like, that sounds bad.
And it's his throwing shoulder, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, fuck. I was going to say I want to do the Titans simply because they're coming off a bye. They're at home. Indy looks shitty. So, like, why not? We have the rested team, home game. Neither team really looks good, and we at least like the defense for the Titans.
Love.
So, but hell, if it's going to be Mason Rudolph, I don't want to bet on it.
So they said it should be Levis. It almost certainly will be Levis. And it looks like it almost certainly will be Richardson.
Yeah, but how long do either of them stay in the game?
I hate this league. It's very difficult to bet on a league so inefficient that, God forbid, the starting quarterback miss time on the Colts. They get substantially better. I want to live in the universe where the Colts drafted Will Levis instead, and they're a fucking powerhouse. That is a world where I can win a lot of money. Man, I don't like this league right now. I don't enjoy it. And I guess we have to pick 5 for the fucking contest. So I lean Titans because it looks like I'm getting Levis versus Richardson, and the Titans are, if we're just betting perception here, if we're doing like old school handicapping where we don't actually look at the players and the matchups, we just look at like the vibes and the perception and assume that the market is close to correct, but maybe missing a couple things. The public thinks that Richardson is pretty good, even though he's one of the worst quarterbacks I've ever seen. And the public thinks that Will Levis is terrible, despite the fact that he's been pretty solid. Because it seems that when Will Levis does silly, goofy blooper things, everybody notices. And when Anthony Richardson does them, we seem to be looking the other way for a moment. And then, oh, no. Oh, what did he do? Oh, I didn't see it. Doesn't count.
They're distracted by the 80-yard touchdown he threw, that they don't see the 6 incompletions and 3 pickables.
And that 80-yard touchdown's from week 1 and it's week 6 and they're still watching it. They're also ignoring the fact that Joe Flacco very obviously runs this offense substantially better, and Joe Flacco is a senior citizen. He's older than Anthony Richardson's mother, and he was never a great quarterback at any point in his career, and he's better than Anthony Richardson today. That's disgusting. If you're an Anthony Richardson stan, look in the mirror and talk to yourself. You've got things to figure out.
I think we put it in the maybe pile and come back.
Gotta go maybe, just because Will Levis has got such bad PR and Anthony Richardson has such good PR. Just handicapping the PR is the only way I can get to a lean here, and I need 5 bets.
All right, let's move on to the 3 o'clock hour.
It only gets worse.
We have the Los Angeles Chargers going to play the Denver Broncos. The Chargers are -3.
The entire AFC West should be tried for point shaving. I mean, it's the Globetrotters and the Washington Generals times 3. I don't know, like how, in theory, how do the Chargers hang in this game without throwing the football?
I don't know. I mean, my gut reaction is Denver because they have Bo Nix, who is not good.
He's bad.
But he doesn't really need to be good because nobody's good.
Well said.
And their defense is looking fierce.
It's good. The secondary's sick. Shout out my homie Brandon Jones.
I was about to say he's finally getting to blossom.
He's finally showing out. Patrick Surtain, very good. Riley Moss. I'm inclined to tell a little anecdote about used to have some friends who are heavy in the analytics committee, the intelligentsia as they are, and they fucking hated the Riley Moss pick. He's not worth a 5th round pick. Well, Sean Payton overruled his analytica and drafted him in the 3rd round, and it looks like a fucking steal. Frankly, I had like a 2nd or 3rd round grade on him myself, so I feel a little bit vindicated, although I didn't see him playing like this. He's been really good. So yeah, you've got a great secondary in Denver versus a Chargers team that really, really doesn't want to pass anyway. I think, now this is just me spitballing, but I think a witch convinced Greg Roman, maybe it was a gypsy, that every time he throws the ball, a day is stolen from the end of his life.
But he has to stay employed as an offensive coordinator.
Yes, I mean, he does love football. So combine his innate instinct towards self-preservation and the fact that the Broncos actually do have a very good secondary that'll make it difficult to pass on them anyway, and the fact that, much like the Patriots, the Chargers decided to shit on their own chests instead of acquiring good receivers. Holy fucking shit. It is bleak for that offense. And meanwhile, they will be running J.K. Dobbins, a very mediocre running back, right up the gut into the teeth, I guess, of the Broncos defense. And then, you know how they thought that by pouring every 1st round pick for this decade into the offensive line that it would be so dominant that you just couldn't stop them? It's okay.
The tackles are really good.
They're pretty good. They're not like fucking killers, because Joe Alt's young and Rashawn Slater has had every part of his body repaired. Like, it's just really fundamentally stupid construction of a team. And then, yeah, on the other side, I've got Sean Payton, who I think is a fraud, but infinitely better than Greg Roman and geriatric Harbaugh. I mean, Jim Ridiculous. I mean, Jim Harbaugh. I found a new dog whistle.
Happy for you.
And I don't think the Chargers are actually average in any capacity. I think that the best they are is below average, and I think that it's probably their running game. Like, the best thing about them is that they're below average in the running game, and everything else is kind of actively terrible. So I got to lean Broncos. In fact, I might even want to bet Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, they're a home dog, and they've been playing better football. I don't know if they're better on paper, but I don't think they're necessarily worse. And we've seen both of these teams play, and one of them looks like they don't want to win. So, I mean, again, I don't know if we're going to lock it in, but I think Denver +3 at least goes into the maybe pile.
It certainly does, especially because these are 2 shitty, low-scoring teams and 2 coaches who just want to, find a way to hang in there to the end, extend the game, and that's when 3 points really comes in handy.
All right, let's move on. Next up, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers going to play the Las Vegas Raiders. The Steelers are -3.
We're talking about bad teams.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, the Steelers defense is pretty fucking good, and the Raiders offense is beyond inept. But like the Steelers kind of suck at scoring points too, and the Raiders are pretty decent at stopping people from scoring points. And like, what's more likely, that the Steelers should be 4-2, or that both of these teams should be 500 where they belong? So I don't know. I don't really want to lay 3 in a game that should have like 25 total points.
yeah. I mean, I think Pittsburgh definitely wins this game just because, well, not definitely, but I think they win the game because I think Aiden O'Connell is shitty. I think he's going to have some stupid turnovers.
I think it's really funny that their quarterback battle is Aiden O'Connell versus an older Aiden O'Connell. One guy likes to dress up as Farva from Super Troopers. The other guy likes to dress up as Uncle Rico from Napoleon Dynamite. Like, they're both shitty athletes with weak arms and good brains. Like, both of them really just have to be punching mirrors every fucking day. Like, God, why did you curse me with the arm of a 12-year-old?
Couldn't you just make me strong?
If either of them had average arm talent, they would be what everybody thinks Joe Burrow is. But alas.
Yep. I mean, I think the quarterbacks are similar. I like Pittsburgh's defense a little bit more. I think Pittsburgh should beat this team. I mean, like, they're better.
But how do you lay 3 points with a team that I'm not sure can score 2 touchdowns against anyone?
No, I mean, it's a legitimate point. And I mean, I think it goes maybe pile for me.
And like, yeah, Antonio Pierce is a bad coach. And yeah, they're having problems with Devontae Adams. But the way that the Raiders have so overreacted lately, like benching their quarterback who they just picked 4 weeks ago, and you know, calling out players and saying, oh, dudes are making business decisions. It shows that whether right or wrong, the Raiders like really, really, really fucking care about winning every game right now. So like the sense of urgency is remarkable. Whereas I don't think the Steelers necessarily have that, because you'd have to be kind of insane to care that much about week 5 and 6. I don't know. I don't want to bet on a game that has 0 good quarterbacks, 0 good coaches, and 0 good offenses.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, but I don't really like many games that are being played.
I don't either, but we'll figure that up in the wrap out. Or we'll figure that out in the wrap up. I'm drunk on terrible football.
All right, let's move on. Next up, we have the Atlanta Falcons going to play the Carolina Panthers. The Falcons are -6.
Oh, fuck. Okay, on one hand, I really want to fade the Cardinals because they've just been so fucking ridiculously lucky for 3 straight weeks and have absolutely no business being this good.
Falcons.
That's what I meant. The Red Bird team. I said yeah. I'm drunk. I'm drunk on bad football. I know. I misspoke. On the other hand, the Panthers are like legitimately really bad, and it's tough. Like, Andy Dalton is playing pretty well. The offense is way better with Andy Dalton, but it's still a mediocre at very best offensive coordinator. It's still a really bad receiving core. Like, they drafted Jonathan Mingo a year ago, and he's bad. Like, they drafted him to be an athlete who's not very good at playing wide receiver, but he's good with the ball in his hands, and he's not really that good with the ball in his hands because they got addicted to the hopium of maybe this is Deebo Samuel, just like they did with Shi Smith 3 years ago. And then for the 3rd straight year, they drafted a Deebo Samuel clone who's not even Deebo Samuel, and also Deebo Samuel's not even that good. So their receiving core is Deontay Johnson, legitimately very good, and then shitty Deebo Samuel, Jonathan Mingo, and shitty Deebo Samuel, Xavier Legette, neither of which can play football in this league. And then Tommy Tremble, who's the tight end version of Deebo Samuel. They tried to build the entire team out of a guy who went to college nearby and actually is very overrated as he is. And then all of the copies are worse. It's fucking bad. And then also the Falcons have a bad defense, and I don't like their offense, but Kirk Cousins has looked better lately. But 6 points, are we fucking kidding? I mean, that's a lot for a division game between 2 teams that both deserve to be around 500. Does anything about this game interest you at all?
No, I mean, I'd probably lean Panthers just because it's a big number.
I kind of can see the Panthers winning.
Yeah, because I mean, I don't think either team is very good, but I think the Panthers are still bad, so I don't really want to bet on it.
Oh, fuck. Okay, I found one. Next game is good.
Yes,
oh my God.
Absolutely.
This is a real bet. This is an actual fucking bet.
Next up, rounding out the 3 o'clock hour, we have the Detroit Lions going to play the Dallas Cowboys. The Lions are -3.
This is just wonderful. I get Ben Johnson, the best coach in this game, one of the best offensive coaches in this world, off of a bye against a banged up, shitty Cowboys team who feels fortunate for having won last game. The Lions are incredible at running the ball. Why? Their offensive line is not only extremely elite, but it's fucking huge. It's definitely the best offensive line in the league right now, and it's all big guys. And they're going to run against, when healthy, the worst run-stopping defensive front in the NFL. And they're not healthy. So I think that the Lions are probably going to rush for 250 yards. Not actually.
I think they're going to be able to run it well.
Like, the reason they won't rush for 250 yards is because, like, they're going to rush so effectively that the game will not have 250 yards worth of time in it. But they are going to walk down the field basically at will. On the other side, you've got a shitty offensive line versus arguably the defensive player of the year already in Aiden Hutchinson. Remember when the Jaguars didn't draft him because they didn't think he had the upside to be a superstar? Ha 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 ha. He did. 6'7" guys who are super quick and have lots of production in the Big Ten tend to be good. What a stupid son of a bitch that guy is, Bulky. You're telling me I couldn't do Bulky's job for a fifth of the price and be infinitely better? Trent Bulky, this is to you. Shots fired. I'm better than you at your job. Call me arrogant. I'm also right. This offensive line sucks really bad. The tackles are the weak point. They're very, very weak. It's that time of year. Zach Martin is hurt again. He's going to play, but he's not going to be Zach Martin. He's going to be like Za Martin because he's half of himself right now. And then Cooper Beebe is, he's like an okay center prospect who's taking time to become that. Centers take time. It's a very heady position. So they have two good guards. One of them's hurt, and then they have bad tackles and a not really good center right now. And they're playing against a team that has two run-stuffing guards, like nose guards, and the best defensive end in the world, and three good linebackers. And how the fuck are the Cowboys going to move the ball? Their only hope is throwing seams to CeeDee Lamb, and it's tough to throw seams against Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph. So I love the Lions here, not only because they're a better team on a higher tier than the Cowboys, but also because they match up particularly well against the Cowboys as well. It is a slam dunk. This is our best bet of the week. I don't care what you say because I know you agree with me. And if you don't, we're going to change your meds. Lions, cha-ching, cha-ching. Holy fuck. I actually really like this bet.
Best bet. Yeah, I think because the Lions, they can run on anyone. They're going to beat the shit out of you. And the Cowboys have not been able to keep up with anyone that does that. And their offense is nowhere near good enough to make up for that.
Well, it's just like, imagine if last week the Steelers could score 25 points, because that's basically what, like, the Lions are going to do the same thing on offense, run the ball a ton, and just do it way better. And they're also coming off a bye, so they're healthy, and they're schemed up and smart, and they have a way better coach, and they have way better offensive line, and they have a way better defensive line, and they have a way better run game. The only difference is that the quarterback in Dallas is ever so slightly better than the quarterback in Detroit.
Yeah,
that's it.
And I think the corners are definitely the weak spot for Detroit.
And they're also the weak spot for fucking Dallas.
Yeah, I don't think they're as bad in Dallas. But
Dallas's entire defense is they built the entire plane out of the weak spot.
Yeah, but I think the difference in the trenches for both of these teams, and you have a fresh Lions team, so they're really going to be able to get after you and all that aggressive play. So, yeah, I'm good with it. Best bet. Let's move on to Sunday night.
We've been not waiting all day for Sunday night.
On Sunday night, we have the Cincinnati Bengals going to play the New York Giants. The Bengals are -3.5.
When the Giants replace Daniel Jones next year, they're going to be legitimately good.
Mm-hmm.
I actually just graded, like literally right before this podcast, I graded Daniel Jones and Geno Smith from last week. And this Giants offense is so well designed. The offensive line has grown by leaps and bounds. Like, it's decent now. Legit decent. I love Darius Slayton. I never stopped loving Darius Slayton. I also love Malik Neighbors. I love Malik Neighbors more. I like Wan'Dale Robinson, like, a lot. So they got three super useful, I think, good wide receivers, plus Jalen Hyatt, who I also like a lot as a deep threat. They're 4 deep at wide receiver with, like, dudes who scare you. And then, yeah, they lost Saquon Croissant in the backfield, but they've replaced him admirably. Like, they got this kid Gray. I don't even know his first name. I don't know where he came from. I don't know where he goes, Cotton Eye Joe, but he's really good in space. Like he's a small guy. He's very fast. But they, at one point, I think first drive of the game, it was like 3rd and 20 because Daniel Jones took the dumbest sack of all time and then proceeded to outdo himself multiple times throughout the game. But they just threw a little screen to the running back, this gray kid, and it was blocked up okay, but he made 2 dudes miss and just ran for 25 yards to get the first down. And they were like, oh, they ran the exact same play the next play, and it got another 15 yards. And then like a couple drives later, they were having a tough time moving the ball. And they were like, what about that? Oh, yep. Same exact play to Gray one more time, worked again. So that guy's a fucking weapon. And they've actually managed pretty well in the run game without Saquon. It's weird how that works. The problem is Daniel Jones, he can't hit a deep ball, even though he did last week twice, which was weird. And I had to like pinch myself to make sure I was real. I saw a spinning top over there and I was like, damn it.
Incepted you.
Exactly. No, the Bengals defense sucks. It's bad. Like I feel bad for Lou Anarumo because he doesn't have answers. He doesn't have cornerbacks who belong in the league. He doesn't have safeties who belong in the league. He doesn't have any pass rush whatsoever because Hendrickson is hurt and not playing very well. Like he's playing decent, but not like Trey Hendrickson good. And then I think Sam Hubbard might be washed at the ripe age of like 28. He looks terrible.
Yeah, he's been bad. And then, I mean, Dax Hill just went down for the year too. Not that he was very good for them, but
the fact that he was playing or starting at corner is kind of like a fucking indictment.
Exactly, because then like who do they have behind that? Like if this is the guy they're picking to start,
it's going to be DJ Turner, who's like okay. I actually think he matches up really well on Slayton, just because he's super fast. But there's a reason that a guy who's super fucking fast and has good size and went to Michigan fell to the end of the second round. He gets confused in space. He's the kind of guy where you could run a curl on him and he'll go the opposite way thinking it's an out route and then you just fucking torch him for 70 yards, which is good if you're Malik Neighbors and that's kind of your whole bread and butter. Other side of the ball, Jamar Chase is still Jamar Chase. It's nuts. Turns flats into 80-yard touchdowns. Joe Burrow is playing the best ball of his entire life. He's competent, but barely. T. Higgins is sick. Andrei Yashovich is sick. Yosivas. I don't know. I don't know what country of origin that is, so I don't know how to pronounce it. Because like, if it's Latvian, it's Yoshivash. But if it's Greek, it could even be Iasivis, but it's probably Yosivas.
I think it's Yosivas.
I don't know. Dude's got a weird profile picture on Twitter. I don't like it. Like the weaponry is stupid in Cincinnati, but the offensive line's just okay, and Joe Burrow's a problem. Like he tries to turn the ball over constantly, and he doesn't really throw downfield very well. So hard to take advantage of a defense that can't cover deep when you can't throw deep very well. I mean, like there was one play that, I gave Joe, he had 2 deep balls, both of which were accurate. One was a perfect dime to Jamar Chase, and one of them was I graded as great but not elite to Yosivas. And it's because it was 50 yards and it hung up in the air, and Yosivas had to stop and wait for a full second and then moss a guy to catch the ball on the sideline because Joe Burrow couldn't get the ball 50 yards despite stepping into it. Like it was bad. Like when he crow hops, he can throw the ball 60 yards, maybe even 65. But anytime he doesn't have everything just perfect, we're talking 45, 50 yard cap. So I think we're going to have a high scoring affair.
I agree.
Pick 'em. I probably go Bengals, but it's 3.5. I kind of lean Giants. I think they're a lot better than people are recognizing. And I think that the Bengals do actually suck. Like for years, the defense kind of carried Joe Burrow until the crunch time moments. And then in the crunch time moments, they ended up pulling off just enough offense to win. The defense is not there. It's bad. So like, I don't see a path to Cincinnati winning by margin unless it's like close game and they score 1 touchdown to win. Like I don't think Cincinnati's going to get out to a huge lead.
I worry that because I think that the Giants are going to be able to score, but I don't think they're going to be able to score at will because it's still Daniel Jones.
He's so bad.
Yeah, and I think the Bengals will have an easier time scoring because they have just so many guys that can catch and create problems, and the Giants' secondary is not very good. Like, it's all right.
I like Xavier Banks, but not enough for him to shut down Jamar Chase one-on-one, which is what they're going to ask of him.
Yeah. So it's like I feel like it could get to a spot where then Cincinnati just pours some big touchdowns off of broken plays or broken coverages. and then you're relying on Daniel Jones to throw you back into a game. And like, yeah, their defense is terrible.
Daniel Jones makes problems that your defense doesn't have to.
Exactly. The defense doesn't need to be good when Daniel Jones throws it at them.
He'll give it to you. He'll give it to you now. Yeah, I don't know, man.
I think we may be it just because of the nature of this week.
This week sucks. This league kind of sucks, and this week really highlights how bad it sucks.
I said it the other day of maybe we've been liking all of the picks we've been making, and we've been having not great luck or have been making bad picks. So maybe we need to just pick a bunch of games that we don't really like. Can't really go worse. I don't
like this league.
Yeah, and I mean, this week is kind of forcing our hand by giving us a bunch of games we don't like. So maybe it'll be good for us. But let's move on to Monday night before we can actually pick, because currently we have one pick made. On Monday night, we have the Buffalo Bills going to play the New York Jets. The Bills are -2.5.
The battle of who's going to get Davante Adams. Straight up, I think whoever wins this game will acquire Davante Adams. Okay, these are both poorly coached teams, and I don't think that firing Bob Salah changes that.
No, because Nathaniel Hackett is still the offensive coordinator.
Aaron Rodgers is still the offensive coordinator, and he's terrible at it, always was. I mean, he's the reason that Mike McCarthy got fired. Like, back in the day, and this is according to Nate Tice, so I feel is pretty fucking reputable, McCarthy would call plays, and Rodgers would look at him and, like, say, no, fuck you, and just call completely different plays, and then they wouldn't work, and then the offense would stagnate, and it wasn't very good. And then Rodgers would bitch and moan like, oh, well, McCarthy's not calling good plays. And it's like, well, you're not running the play he calls anyway. So fuck you. So yeah, Aaron Rodgers, the more control he gets, the worse things turn out. He's the original, like, hypothetical man. Like, oh, Aaron Rodgers could do that too. Well, he doesn't, though. He never does. He's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, because he also just looks old and hurt now, where he used to be able to get away with a lot of stuff because he just had such insane arm talent and couldn't move around.
Against Minnesota, he threw the ball at Minnesota Vikings 4 times. He doesn't play for the Minnesota Vikings. I don't think he knows that. I know that he's trying to follow the Brett Favre career arc. He's not in Minnesota yet. So, yeah, I think that the Bills' defense sucks. It's really bad. I don't like a single one of their starting defensive linemen. I don't like a single one of their cornerbacks. I like Taylor Rapp, kind of like Terrell Bernard. I kind of actually like Christian Benford, kind of. DeMar Hamlin, good for him, but he shouldn't be playing in this league. He should be not only cut, but like retired. Not because of health reasons, because he can't hack it, and he never could.
Yeah, he's just not good. He's just not athletic enough to do anything.
No, he's a poor athlete who's not particularly heady, and he wasn't very good in college, and he's not any good in the NFL. I think that Mike Williams will be perfectly neutralized by Rasul Douglas, because that's 2 guys who can't really move but are tall and smart and have ball skills. So, like, those guys are fire out there, accomplishing nothing. Garrett Wilson will get open a little bit on Christian Benford, because Benford can't really move side to side, and that's kind of all Garrett Wilson's good for. Remember when I got flamed for saying, like, Garrett Wilson's going to be a really good wide receiver too, but he's not an X, and he's not like a special athlete, so he will never be special unless he's in a special situation? That's kind of exactly what's happened so far, and nobody's apologized again. They never do that.
Yeah, well, I think it's because he still had very good stats.
He's a good player. Like, he's Davante Adams. Or not Davante Adams, Devontae Smith. He's a good player. He's not a Batman.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's fair. Like, just when you watch Wilson, he was never especially athletic, and he's not that big. Like, he's a really good route runner. He's great at manipulating his body in the air to make catches.
Definitely.
But to be like that true number one, yeah, you have to have some outstanding trait physically that I think he just doesn't really have.
Speaking of outstanding trait, the only reason that it's not like a slam dunk go Bills bet is, like, do they have a single skill player who's great at any aspect of football? Like, Keon Coleman's great at being tall, but I wouldn't call that a part of football. He's really slow and has terrible hands and gets really, really confused by the concept of running a route. Curtis Samuel is now in his 30s and never could actually play football. He was just athletic. And, when you're in your 30s, you're not. Dalton Kincaid, turns out he might have been a little bit of a product of being 24 years old in college. Those Mormons did it again. And Mac Hollins, dope hair. I guess, but really slow and not particularly great at catching footballs. They don't have any receivers, and Joe Shane should be fucked. It's Joe Shane there, right? Yeah. No.
No, he's in New York.
Yes. Is it Brandon Bean?
I think so.
Brandon Bean, I'm better than you at your job. If you disagree, fight me or play me in chess or something, because I will beat you in all ways. You are a dumb man. I am better than you. Admit it. Joe Douglas, you're close. No, there's no receivers or skill weapons. And so, like, I get mad at Joe Brady, the offensive coordinator, because I'm like, you have Josh Allen, throw the fucking ball. But there's no one, like, literally, Keon Coleman on multiple plays last week was the primary target, ran the route, got open, and didn't look at the half of the field that Josh Allen was on, so the ball hit him in the back of the fucking head. That happened on 4th and whatever on a very long touchdown. Keon Coleman scored a touchdown because he got confused which way to turn on his curl, and so he didn't. Like, you're supposed to run to the top of your curl and then turn, but he forgot which way he was supposed to turn, and instead of just turning one of the ways, he fucking stopped, and it confused the corner into thinking this is certainly a double move, so he fell. And then eventually Keon Coleman turned, and eventually Josh Allen hit him, and then he bobbled the ball and went down to a knee to catch it, and then ran for a touchdown because there was nobody on their feet near him. He's again, like Deshaun Watson, so bad that you can't do anything with him because he doesn't know what he's doing. And I don't like saying that. It would be dope if he was good. He seems like an awesome guy. He has cool highlights, and the kind of player he could theoretically be is sick. But it turns out he's Kelvin Benjamin. Instead of being fat, he's dumb. The tall guy, allegedly good hands, but has never caught a football in his life, gets confused all the time, can't really play in any capacity. Florida State, it's all matching up. I don't know what the Bills are supposed to do other than Josh Allen be God. And he hasn't been God in like 2 weeks. That being said, I don't think the Jets can stop a nosebleed. I think that the Bills are just going to run all over them in their shitty defensive line.
Hey, interim coach boost.
That would make sense to me if it wasn't very obvious to everybody in the room that the shadow head coach is still there. And his name is Aaron Rodgers, and he's the worst player on your team.
Yeah, if the head coach was fired because he was actually doing something poorly compared to as the shadow head coach needing someone to take the fall, or really just for trying to fire his buddy, if you believe that story.
Apparently they never even fucking warned Bob Salah.
Yeah.
They never said like, hey man, turn this shit around. They just were like, oh yeah, dude, you're fired. Can you leave right now? We know that you just came to the office after flying across the ocean. But go back home now. It's haphazard. It's bullshit. It's bad ownership. Granted, the Bills are fucking dumb too. Find me a good quarterback with a good coach and a decent roster. One.
I mean, the closest you get is Kansas City.
It's the closest you get. But here's the problem with Patrick Mahomes. Hadn't been good in fucking 2 years.
Yeah, but I think that's close you get.
Definitely the closest you get. Well, like maybe Sean McVay and Stafford, but they're playing with an entire lineup of backups, and Sean McVay's kind of a pussy and the worst defense I've ever seen.
Yep.
I hate this league. Fuck it. Bills, because I need to bet on somebody.
All right, is that an official bet or maybe pile?
Let's do the wind-up.
I was about to say, because we might as well just put it in the maybe pile and go through this list of half the games.
Yeah, let's fucking crack through the wind-up. 3 minutes left in the pod. We're definitely betting Tampa minus 3.5. Hate the number, but goddamn it, they're going to win. Best bet is Detroit minus 3. That's actually a legitimately great bet. Yay. Yeah. Fuck it, Buffalo, because why not? Fuck it, Denver, because why not? Fuck it, Green Bay, because Kyler Murray's small and it's going to be rainy. Do we have any other maybes that maybe we sub out?
We're staying away from Tennessee.
Fuck, I want Tennessee, actually.
I definitely like Denver. Green Bay still scares me because of the number.
In a game that will be low scoring.
Right. So I kind of don't want to bet on Green Bay.
Swap Green Bay for Tennessee?
I think so, and then our other options are Pittsburgh and the Giants. I don't want to bet on the Giants. That just seems like a bad bet.
Yep.
Pittsburgh feels like it is, again, just betting on Steelers voodoo.
Kinda.
Because
at least they have something, whereas the Raiders only have vomit on their chest.
Yeah. But, yeah, I think that's right. I think we do Tampa, Detroit, Denver, Buffalo, Tennessee.
3 units Detroit, 2 units Tampa, 1 unit everything else.
Oh, boy.
Detroit is a fucking sick bet.
No, I agree. Tampa, 2 units. And I get it because we like it more than some of the other ones. But at 3.5, 2 units feels aggressive.
Do you like the Tampa bet more than you like the Bills bet?
Yes. Tampa is my second favorite for sure.
I think the Detroit bet is a great bet. I think the Tampa bet is a okay, decent bet. I think the rest are, fuck it, we have to bet on something.
Yeah. No, I agree with that.
Like personally, I'm only going to bet Tampa and Detroit this week.
Yeah. And you're betting Tampa at 1.5.
Yeah. At 1.5, I like Tampa better than I like Detroit just because of the number and the chaos. But we don't get to bet the lines that I found earlier this week. Okay.
All right. So wrapping up, our best bet is Detroit -3 at Dallas.
Ching, ching, motherfucker.
Our second best bet, because it's 2 units, is Tampa Bay -3.5 at New Orleans.
Ching, please God, Todd Bowles, don't fuck me.
And then our next 3 bets are all 1 unit. We have Tennessee over Indianapolis -2.5. We have Denver +3 hosting the Chargers. And then we have Buffalo -2.5 going to the Jets.
Please, Todd Bowles, I swear to God, please don't fuck me.
I really hope he doesn't.
If Todd Bowles fucks me, I'm gonna